Thank you, everybody. Is it on? Is it on?
Yeah.
Usually don't need to hear I need a microphone to be heard anyway, so nice to see you all. I feel like Jim let me in here. It's like being a bullfighter being led into the ring here. I'm also pleased to be second on the list. I was second on the list the first time by alphabetical, so I'm right where I expected to be. But as always, it's a great pleasure to be here with you guys tonight, and I just always like to start just by saying, first of all, thank you for putting this forum together, Justin, and all those folks who came out today. I tell you, this is really a little bit of a different time in America today, and people actually seem to be very, very concerned about the direction of this country, and people want to come out and participate and see what's going on. And I just want to say thank you for coming out tonight, for showing your interest, even in the sheriff's race, which, you know, maybe not the most glamorous race for people, but it's a very important race, which I'll get into in a minute. And I just appreciate your willingness and activism to come out here. I've been very, very pleased to see the Tea Party movement sort of take off as it has in the last year or two, because you know, like I do, that 2 years ago, these meetings weren't taking place. And I think for the first time, we see the politicians in this country starting to say, wait a minute, people are actually watching us, and we better be careful. Because now we used to see before there was just the special interest groups were always at the table, and they were the ones that were active, they were the ones that held signs, and they were the ones that wrote letters. There was nobody on the other side. But I'm so pleased to say, because I've been involved in politics for a while. I've watched sort of from Beacon Hill, which I'll talk about in a minute, and I've seen sort of what's been happening. And I'll tell you what, it is really pleasing to see people who say, you know, we've had enough, and not only we've had enough, we're going to do something about it. And that means we've had enough about the ideas of bailout bills and stimulus spending. We have a bailout bill and stimulus bills that have been passed, and you know what's happened? We were told unemployment would never go above 9%. And yet here we are, and unemployment seems to be 9.5%, and if you believe the numbers, because many people suspect the unemployment rate is actually closer to 18% in real numbers. People are out of work. Government intervention hasn't helped. It's only made the problem worse. And we've seen nationalization of now our health care and a lot of other things like the auto industry. And I just feel a lot of the Tea Party folks have been here, you've been out, you've been going to these meetings, and you're saying to people, I've had enough, and I'm going to participate in government. And I think that's really what's going on right now, and I appreciate your being here tonight, as you have been following what's been going on in America. Now, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself and why I decided to run for Worcester County Sheriff, and I'll talk a little bit about my ideas for the Worcester County Sheriff. Like many of you feel today, 8 years ago was 2002. I was 40 years old. I was sort of complaining about the fact that Beacon Hill didn't listen to the voters, that we had a system that was out of control. They didn't listen to the people when they wanted a tax rollback. They didn't listen to people when they wanted charitable deductions. They didn't listen to people when they wanted clean elections. I was complaining about it pretty loud to my family, my wife, my kids, my friends. And they said to me, well, if you care that much about it, why don't you run for office? I'd never run for office before. 40 years old. I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to run for state representative because my state representative was voting with Tom Finneran 99% of the time. He was a good guy. I liked him personally. I have a good friendship with him today, but I disagreed with the fact that he, in my mind, was not representing the district appropriately. So I went around my district for a campaign very, very hard, and I told people who I was, my background, and I told them what I planned to do, and that was vote for you, not let Beacon Hill tell me how to vote. I was proud of what I did. I said, I'm going to be around. If you need me, I'll call you back. I'll be there to help you. And you know what? It was a simple platform. Be responsible to people and listen to them and work hard. And I did, and I did something that hasn't been done but twice in 15 years. I actually beat an incumbent, and I beat an incumbent Democrat 58% to 42%. The reason I'm telling you that is because it can be done. I'm not afraid of a big challenge. In 8 years on Beacon Hill, I fought for the taxpayers. I have a 100% voter rating from CLT. I've got an A+ rating from Gold. I'm proud of what I've done. And in my last race, I ran in a district that's 18% Republican, and I received 70% of the vote. Because I believe I've done the job as a representative like I promised I'd do. I wouldn't let other people tell me what to do. I'd do what was right for the people. But after 8 years on Beacon Hill, I'm thinking about a new challenge. I believe in term limits. I think the Tea Party movement in many ways has done nothing more than hopefully be a term limit movement in America, because we can't get the politicians out of office because they've been in there too long and they got too much money. So what I did, yes, too much money. So what I decided to do at that point in time, after 8 years in the House, I said, you know what, Guy Glodis was leaving. And I looked at my life and I said, okay, well, you know what, I graduated from Wachusett Regional High School, went to UMass Amherst. I went to law school, worked in Wall Street for a while down in New York City. Went to law school, and after that I was a state attorney. I became a state prosecutor. I was back up in Massachusetts. I was an assistant district attorney. I love criminal justice. I've always enjoyed criminal justice issues. And many times in the State House, I've really been one of the leaders on issues of public safety when it comes to legislation on Beacon Hill. When they tried to gut Melanie's bill, I stood up for the people and said, this is wrong. I know what they're trying to do. They want repeat offenders who are drunk drivers to be able to be getting off and have attorneys represent them to get them off. And we stopped that. And Melanie Powell's grandfather, she was 13 years old and was killed by a drunk driver, personally thanks me whenever I see him for the efforts I did on behalf of Melanie's bill. Just like I fought the fight to make sex offenders available online. Jessica's bill with Karen Polito, we worked on that bill to help protect our children. I love criminal justice issues. And you know what? I thought of the Sheriff's Department when I heard Guy Glotis was moving on. And I said, you know what? I like challenges. There's a challenge. Here's an office that I studied before I decided to run. A lot of my people, and I'm going to tell you, a lot of you I know, some of you I don't, but a lot of my constituents came up to me and said, Lew, Sheriff, why do you want to run for Sheriff? And I said to him, because you know what, I studied this job, and you can do an enormous amount of good as Worcester County Sheriff. It's a very big job, it's a very important job, and I can do a lot of good for you. And the first thing I'm going to do is this. I'm not promising a nickel. I'm not taking a nickel from any employee that works at the jail, and I'm not making a job promise, because most people have associated county government and the Sheriff's Department with patronage and waste. And anybody that knows me knows I have no interest in patronage and no interest in waste. It has no interest in my life. It never has. I have a professional record to stand on. That's been my career. But why do you want to run for sheriff then? Well, first of all, I'm not a big proponent of county government at all, but there's a lot of good you can do. And when I studied county government and what sheriffs do all over this country, I got very excited about it. I looked into things Sheriff Glotis has done, I looked at things other sheriffs have done in Massachusetts, and I looked at sheriffs across this country. And I came up with a lot of interesting ideas that I think I can bring to the Sheriff's Department. Professionalism, like I talked about, inside the jail. Bringing a level of professionalism so when people are going to get promotions and they expect things, they're not going to say, whose palm got greased? Who gave who money? This guy's going to walk through that door, I'm not going to owe anybody one favor, and I'm going to be able to run that place as straight as an arrow like you'd expect. Besides that, there's a lot of innovative programs we need to do. Some are being done now, others can be implemented. But to help make sure when we get inmates in there, most of them are there for a short time now. You realize the Sheriff's Department doesn't have those career criminals who are in state prison. They're the shorter term prisoners, most are there for 9 months or so. You get them. But you've got to try to work with those inmates to make them more responsible citizens. So when they get out of prison, they're not recommitting crimes in your neighborhood. They're not costing you, the taxpayers, money by a revolving door. I love that challenge. I can try to make my community safer if I can send more productive citizens out in the streets. And I can save the taxpayers of Massachusetts money by saying, guess what? We can stop that revolving door. I can play a part in that as Worcester County Sheriff. I love that idea. There's a wonderful challenge just to start with. And there's a lot of great things you can do as sheriff outside of the Worcester County House of Correction. I studied what some sheriffs do in other parts. Is that my 8-minute cue?
2 minutes, yep. Or you can tie it up.
I usually talk fast, so I get a lot of information out. But just to give you a few other ideas, I studied what sheriffs do. That they have back-to-school programs. They work with children, and they teach them. One's called face-to-face program. It teaches kids what sheriffs do in the Midwest. Teaches kids, if you do drugs, there's a computer program that shows kids what they look like on drugs like methamphetamine. And you know what they found out? You can preach to kids about no drugs, don't do drugs, but when you bring a computer program in that was designed to show people what they look like after plastic surgery, and you can show kids, I have 2 daughters in the public schools, they care what they look like, these kids today. And I've heard these programs are the most effective tools used for anti-drug programs in the country. Sheriffs in the Midwest do them, why not here in Worcester County? I've got ideas I want to bring outside the jail. We've got community service programs that are being done now. I learned as a state representative. My communities are hurting. They are getting cut. Their local aid's being cut. A lot of those community service programs the jail runs, which some of you are aware of, some of you aren't. They're wonderful work programs. They bring people out to the community. They save taxpayers money. Those are the type of programs I'm excited about. I guess I thought I could get more in.